So hi everyone, welcome back to the main stage. I'm here to talk a bit about our project Wonderworld, and especially how we are creating an ecosystem of digital and physical play here at Wondershop. First and foremost, some introductions. So hi, my name is Antti. I'm the lead game designer at Wondershop. Wondershop is a Helsinki-based small startup. We started about a year ago. And we're working on specifically games that tackle the issue of social exclusion through gameplay. I personally have some odd 10 years of game design experience. I've previously worked at places like Seriously and Dazzle Rocks. But without further ado, let me introduce you to Project Wonderworld. So what is Project Wonderworld? It's been hard for us to define it for ourselves as well, but basically it compromises of four different things. The social experience of communities, such as a football club or an art club or even a museum. But also the asynchronous participation of people who are coming to these communities because they can't always be there at the same time. But the game combines the digital gameplay of playing a video game with the physical activities that you would normally do in such a community, such as, well, play football or visit the museum. But because we're working on such a weird new concept, we've been trying very hard to define what it is. So I've been calling it something like massively multiplayer community-based game, whatever that means. Of course, I'm not expecting anyone to pick up to such a weird acronym, but I guess that's the closest thing that we can describe this game. We can, however, start from defining what the game is not. It is not a free-to-play mobile game. It is not a premium PC or console game. It is not a game that's played on a smartwatch. It's not really a game that uses augmented reality or virtual reality, and it is not a digital board game. So what else is there? So it's a bit of hard to define, but fortunately we have 12 more minutes to talk about it. So here we go. The whole project compromises of three different things. The game title, which is still name pending, which is the digital game plus all the activities on top of it. Plus our proprietary hardware, which is a wristband game controller, which I will be talking about soon. Plus also some community tools. A good point from Mikael in the comments. No, it's not a browser game either. Thank you for picking that up. So community tools here, which are basically the tools for the actual community to manage their everyday life, and then how to integrate that into our game. So how are we tackling this creation of a new hybrid game ecosystem that sounds so grandiose? Here are some examples. So basically, the game is played at some physical location that we refer to as hubs. A hub can be anything. Like I said, it can be a library, it can be a football fields, or it can be a museum or a nonprofit community house. And the idea is that the players use these personal gaming bracelets to log in and play the game. So in this example here, this kid Mari is logging into the game by using the bracelet and the Bluetooth connection on it, and then starts playing a mini game. All these hubs are a shared ecosystem. So if you go to a specific hub and play a game there, your game progress continues to another game, another location. So it's the same game effectively. So if you play at a hub A and continue your progress, gain some resources, and you go to a hub B, then you can spend those resources to make this hub B grow better. These hubs are overseen by the hub staff, the community managers, the teachers, and so forth. We refer to them as game masters. They give rewards to the players based on their activities. So for example, if they complete a art course, they might get a reward out of that. They can also provide some community-wide missions for the players. So for example, everyone in this community is now collecting berries for this season. And after we have collectively pulled those together, we get a reward. We can also do some physical games or activities and add a digital layer to them. For example, here is a concept of a basketball game where there's a digital layer to it. But the most important part is that we reward these kinds of activities with some digital content and digital rewards. And the bracelets that we are currently working on, our own digital prototypes or physical prototypes, use both NFC and low energy Bluetooth technologies to communicate, and you can connect these bracelets to the actual digital interfaces. So when you come to a place physically, you then scan your bracelet, and then you are able to play the game. The big part here is that these bracelets will be like very low cost in order to tackle that social exclusion idea, because it can be very expensive to purchase a good gaming console or a gaming PC or even a gaming worthy mobile phone. Not every kid has an access to a mobile phone. So we want to make these bracelets very cost effective so that they will provide enough of gameplay content, but also be accessible to the kids. Basically, the game components are threefold. We have the controller that I've been already talking about. So the players scan their wristbands. There's a relay device that allows, if I recall, 10 to 15 players at the same time and one specific location at the same time. Then we're talking about this concept of player console, where the players use some preset digital devices, such as a tablet device or a mobile device, to control their personal progress. They can customize their characters, accept their quests, and see their progress. Whereas the game screen is either a big TV screen or a projector, that everyone then sees and can participate in the same time. The game is created and built in Unity, and currently we're testing it in an NVIDIA Shield environment. So we're running it on a very low-cost machine, basically, that we can then bring to any other location. So all of these locations would have potentially all of these, but not necessarily all of these components. But how does the digital gameplay, of course, work? We as game designers, game developers, of course, want to see like what's the actual gameplay part. So I have a few examples of that. Here's an example of a screen. So the players walk around in this game world. Then they talk to different non-player characters. After that, they can play some mini games, collect some resources. These resources can be then crafted into new items or traded with the NPCs for some quest-related items. And also completing these in-game quests allow the players to gain special rewards and some resources that they can then donate further to make their own location, this hub, grow better. Then a bit more about the minigame aspect. So what we're thinking of is, because we don't really have traditional controllers in this game, and the idea is that everyone should be able to play at the same time. So if someone goes, for example, into this berry garden location, then they would access this minigame, take their gaming bracelet, which is basically the size of a wristwatch. And then this minigame would start. And in this particular minigame, you collect berries by forming a circle with your finger within this time frame. And once you have completed this green arrow or this filled to green circle, you have collected that berry. So there's a slight like playing gameplay aspect to this, but it's more about the like activity of actually physically doing something. And then after you have collected those, you can then choose what to do with those resources. Either you keep them for some quest, you trade them, or maybe even bake them into a pie or something like that. And then someone else comes and plays the minigame after you. So that is a very quick overview of the game idea. We are currently in the process of making this into actual product. We are a small team of 5 people, and we mainly have our 2D art and some placeholder 3D art currently. The working prototype of the bracelet already exists, and now we're working on tweaking the actual functionality of it so that it works more seamlessly. In addition to that, we are, of course, making sure that the gameplay itself, the completing the quests and how the activities in the real world work together with the digital gameplay side. But so far, our first tests have proven to be quite interesting, and I think we have something very unique here. However, we need more people in our team, of course. So who are we looking for? Of course, as I mentioned, we have a lot of placeholder 3D art, so we are looking for some 3D artists, especially for the character models. We have some non-player characters like this baker here. We're also looking for an additional game designer to help manage the economy, because we are working on a very massive, effectively a MMO-style game without the online component. And there's a lot of things that need to be managed. We also need a lot more content in terms of quests and dialogue, so there's a lot of work in there. And of course, we need a QA specialist, because a project like this needs a lot of understanding of how the software and the hardware work together. And we are looking for some specialists who are especially good at the hardware side of things, but of course, traditional software specialists as well. Unfortunately, currently we are not able to recruit any interns. We are such a small team. We don't have really a lot of resources to oversee internships, but hopefully in the future. But yes, I have about 2 minutes for open questions. If you have any questions. Unfortunately, we don't have a booth, so now is probably the best time to answer some of your questions.
Antti, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. When is the game? When we can try it out?
Well, I can't promise any sort of a date, because we, as I said, we are less than a year-old company, and this is such a early stage of this game. We don't even have a like working title for this project, so I can't make any promises. But if you are interested, then of course following us on Twitter, for example, and on other social medias at Wondershop will let you know.
How are you going to persuade people to wear those hand controllers?
That is a good question. That's a very good question. I think that it's going to come from the community side. So if you're already part of the community and everyone is playing that game, hopefully it's interesting enough and it is part of the game and the community experience, then it will be interesting enough for them to use them. Of course, we don't want them necessarily to wear them all the time. And also, it doesn't necessarily need to be a bracelet per se. We've been also discussing about a keychain format. The actual form of it is functionally the touchpad, but wherever it's attached to is up to the...
Thank you, Antti.
Perfect. Thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity. If you have any questions regarding the game, you can send me an email at antti@wondershop.org. Or if you're interested in joining us, send an email at careers@wondershop.org.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.